So Amy T is a stand-up comedian who, when she's not spending time with her amazing wife and 3 pugs, can be found, yes, working as the chef at her parents' breakfast restaurant, the Breakfast Cafe in Haverhill. Go and get some of her delicious food. Her piece is entitled Experimental Comedy Therapy.
Thank you. All right. Why do I feel like some of you are just looking at me like, what bathroom is she going to use? It's the one with the shortest line. I'm going to tell you that right now. The first time I heard the words mental illness was probably about 10 years ago. I was dating 4 women, not at the same time. Well, some of them overlapped, but they were all in the mental health related field or therapists. And in fact, my last girlfriend was a therapist, and when we would get into a fight, halfway through the argument, she would be like, "That's all the time we have for today." When is it my turn? But the media will give you an image of what mental illness looks, right? It's usually like someone with orange hair that blew up a movie theater or a school, and then after they cover such a tragedy, they'll say, this person suffers from mental illness, and then they just cut to the weather. So that's the image that you're left with. But the reality is that 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with mental illness every single year. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but every single one of us in here has a diagnosable characteristic of mental illness. So it's more like 1 in 4 don't have mental illness, just somebody hasn't told you yet. Like, come on, we all have a little something, right? We do, right? Because I keep my ex-girlfriends in my phone under their prescription. Celexa, Paxil. I haven't picked up the phone in years when Lexapro calls. I can tell you that much right now. So that's a small statistic. Like 1 in 4 people have mental illness, that's me. 1 in 10 people are gay, that's me again. Did you know this? 1 in 5 have herpes. Oh, stop looking around, because I'm not going to own that one too. Just a fun fact I have in my head. But there's so many stereotypes and stigmas that go along with this mental illness. I had a woman come up to me after my show one time, and she's like, Amy T, are you really bipolar? And I go, yeah. She goes, wow, you look pretty smart. I said, I'm crazy, not stupid. And so many people, they'll be like, oh yeah, Amy T, I get it. I got the ADD. I'm like, oh no, you don't get it at all. Because someone with bipolar will cut you. Someone with ADD forgets to cut you. But looking back, I can clearly see that my life was a crock pot of chaos. The physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the sexual abuse, all had the perfect ingredients for a recipe for disaster. It was April 2010. Somehow I was in my mid-30s. I had gained more than 60 pounds. I was $62,000 in debt, and my car had been repossessed. And the only things that I had to show for it was isolation, humiliation, and desperation. I was financially and emotionally bankrupt. And the idea and the thought of living another day, the pain just seemed so raw. I own the road that led me to my breaking point. My success and my self-destruction went undiagnosed for nearly 30 years. Like, I had every indication of somebody living with bipolar disorder. And then at the end of one therapy session, my therapist peppered in PTSD and social anxiety, which got really confusing because I wasn't sure what color the ribbon to wear or who to walk for. But being diagnosed with mental illness, it truly saved my life. Like, it gave a name to the shame about the person I had become. And it's also been the explanation, not the excuse, that has allowed me to be someone living with mental illness rather than somebody that is suffering from one. Thank you. Now. But look at me now. Look at me now. It's more than 7 years later. I turned 40 again for the second time. I lost the 60 pounds on that new fad diet, low calories and exercise. Who the hell knew? People that haven't seen me for a long time, they'll come up to me and be like, Amy T, how did you do it? How did you lose all that weight? I put down the box of cookies and I took a walk. Not rocket science. I quit drinking, which has been the most beneficial for me mentally and physically. I don't like the word recovery. I don't like to call myself a recovering alcoholic because it just has a negative connotation to me. Like recovering alcoholic sounds like what I used to be on a Sunday morning after a weekend of binge drinking. Certainly not indicative of how I feel now. I'm happily married for the third time. I know I'm good at being married. Well, in defense of me, I married and divorced the same woman twice. I swear to God. Because after a couple of martinis, you fall back in love again. It's a whole thing. But my current wife now, and I said, because you don't know what's going to happen, but my wife now, my wife now, oh my God, she's the most amazing woman in the whole entire world. And this is what I tell my wife. I tell my wife that I feel like the universe tailor-made her and hand-delivered her to me. I know, isn't that a great line? You also put that in your back pocket. Seriously. If you find yourself single again, you can use it. You know? Don't try to use it tonight. And it gets awkward, and she's thinking about me, and it's just weird. But no, honestly. And I don't think the fact that my wife is a psych nurse is a coincidence either. How awesome is that? I married a psych nurse. Right? It's like in-home care without the copay. It's fantastic. And people get all jealous about it. They're like, oh my God, Amy T, it must be so awesome being married to a psych nurse. And I'm like, well, not really, because I'm certifiably crazy, I know that, but I think my wife is crazy. You know? And my wife scares me. So I tell her every single day how much I love her. Because my wife can get away with saying things to me out in the world that I could never say. Like if I piss her off or something, she'll look at me and she'll go, if you don't watch it, I'm going to stab you with a stiletto. Could you imagine, if I went out in the world and told somebody I was going to stab them with a stiletto, they would put me in restraints. My wife has the key to the restraints. I am on my best behavior at all times. I love my wife. My wife does scare me a little bit because my wife only watches one channel on television. Like we have 811 channels, my wife watches one. The ID channel. You know this channel? It is true crime. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of wives killing husbands every single day. My wife's a psych nurse. She can make that shit look like an accident. My best behavior at all times. She came to one of my shows recently, and she heard me do that joke, and we were driving home, and she just started bitching at me. She's like, I don't understand why you have to tell all our business on stage. Why do you have to tell everybody everything? And I was like, well, honey, maybe you should have signed a HIPAA instead of a prenup, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.